Now, we love to tell stories because stories are a way of letting the imagination soar. And this first story that I'm about to tell you is called The Traveler and the Troll. No sooner did he say that than the troll ran to his blanket and picked it up. And he says, I have an idea. It is cold in the forest, and you will need to be warm. I am going to say magic words, and when I say these magic words, you are going to have a magic blanket that will keep you warm. These are the magic words. Pick a pocket, in you go, you got it. About Tiger. See, Tiger didn't always have his stripes. Tiger looked, see the golden color right here? He looked a lot like Lion without the mane. And he was very, very conceited. And he always felt he was much stronger than every other animal in the jungle. I'm the strongest except maybe you, for you. And Elephant said, no, 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 no. And he pointed out into the jungle. And there stood man. And he said, that is the strongest animal in the jungle. And Tiger looked and said, that scrawny, two-legged creature is the most powerful. You're wrong. And Elephant, swinging his trunk, said, because man has wisdom. He is the most powerful animal in the kingdom. Well, the evening became night, and night even went into the day. Now, by this time, Lion was hungry, and Lion was sore, and he started going back and forth and moving whatever parts he could, and it hurt. It felt like it was burning his skin, but it felt like he was getting loose until finally he was able to get out of the rope. And he said, man didn't come with wisdom. He promised, oh, I'm going to get even with man. But before he could get even with man, he came across a big pond. And he thought, oh, well, I should at least tidy myself up. And he looked in the pond. Oh my goodness, oh, look at me, oh. And so he saw that there were all these black stripes everywhere, all over his body from the burn marks of the rope, all over his face. He didn't look like a lion anymore. And he thought, well, I'm going to jump in the water and get these marks off. And he went in the water and he started to swim, and he couldn't get the stripes off. And then he started going, and he got out of the water, and he shook himself off, and he started going, tie, the man tied, grr. I got tied, grr. I will get even with man tied, grr. Oh, I will no longer be lion, I will be tiger. And what should he find but a gold ring encrusted with diamonds and rubies and emeralds. And he knew, because he was a wise old man, he knew that he should put that in his pocket and not tell anybody. And he walked all the rest of the way to the village. When he got to the town square, or the village square, where all the information and all the gossip that happens everywhere, you know how it is when you get in groups, you hear what's going on. Well, he listened. He didn't say anything about that ring that was in his pocket, because he was a frail old man, but he was a wise old man. And he listened, and he should hear that the king had lost his favorite ring. Oh, the king has lost his favorite ring. And so he thought, okay, and he got up, and they said, where are you off to? Oh, I'm just going for a walk. Because he knew if he mentioned the palace, they would wonder and ask questions that he didn't want to answer. This is a spider's web. Do you know how a web is made?
Yeah.
Okay, how is a web made?
By making the parts, then making all the lines.
Right, but actually, yes?
A spider web is made by the spider. It brings out like a string. And
Actually, it starts out as a liquid, but it does come right out of the spider. It comes out of the back of the spider. You could say it looks around like it's coming out of the butt of the spider, but it really isn't, okay? But it's coming around the back of the spider. It's a liquid protein, and it's pretty magical because it comes out it starts out as a liquid protein, and as soon as it hits the air, it turns into silk. And so a spider's web is made out of fine silk, okay? Now, a spider, as I was telling you, is not an insect. Do you know why it's not an insect?
Because they have 4 legs of each one.
Right, it has 8 legs. Insects only have 6 legs. Plus, spiders don't have those antennae things that wobble like that you see in bugs. Antennas, but they're called antennae each, okay? And then antennas for the 2 of them. Anyways, so a spider doesn't have those, so that's another thing. Did you know that spiders can be found everywhere in the world except Antarctica?
What? Why?
Yeah, well, I guess it's too cold in Antarctica, but everywhere else they exist. And it's because of spiders that the insects or the bugs of the world don't take over and overrun humanity. Spiders help eat the bug population. So do bats and other things, but spiders really do help. The spider's called Anansi. Now, Anansi originates, his tails, or trickster tails, originate from Africa and India and also Jamaica. And the one I'm going to tell you today is how Anansi became known as the teller of tales. There was a tiger, and tigers were known as the biggest, most ferocious cats. Well, not just cats, animal in the bush. So they got to own everything. So Tiger owned everything, and most of all, Tiger owned stories. So every story that existed, Tiger owned it. Now, Anansi at the time was a teeny tiny spider, just a teeny tiny spider. And he wanted to be able to tell stories and let them be his stories. So he started to think, oh, what can I do, what can I do? You guys have had those times where you have to come up with ideas, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of his ideas was he was going to get a rope, and he was going to make it into a noose, and he called this a fly trap. But it really wasn't for flies, it was for snakes. And then he took his egg that he had been saving up, and he put it right in the middle of the noose, and he waited behind some bushes until Snake came along. And Snake, can you guys slither like Snake? Snake came along and slithered until he saw that. But snakes, you know what snakes can do? They can go up a little bit. And he reached up and over and took that egg without ever touching that rope. And then he went off and ate the egg, and poor Anansi, he was hungry, and he said, oh, that wasn't such a good idea. Now that was Monday. Remember, he only has till Saturday. Now by Wednesday, he had come up with a better idea, a bigger idea. He was going to dig a pit. So he dug. Can you guys dig? Dig and dig and dig until the pit was pretty deep. And then he got grease. You know, grease, and he slimed it all around the walls, along the bottom, and up. So now if Snake went in, Snake couldn't come out, or so Anansi thought. And he then threw some of his bananas down there so that that would entice Snake to go in the hole. And can we be Snake again? Snake went shh, shh, and looked over the hole and said, oh my, and went down into the hole. And he went down and he started eating the bananas. And Anansi thought, oh good, I caught Snake, I got Snake. Now Tiger will give me all the stories. I got him. But then Snake began to twist and turn and twist and turn till his head was out. And then by using his body, he was able to get out of the greasy hole. And Anansi went, oh, now what am I going to do? It's Wednesday. One of the most famous trickster is Anansi. See, Anansi is a spider, and he comes from the African tales, and most people, when they meet Anansi, they should stay far away, because Anansi is lazy, he's greedy, and he always wants something for nothing. And the reason I like this particular story is because Anansi this time, he thinks he's being the trickster, but he gets tricked. the words moss-covered rock are said. Okay, what's the words? Moss-covered rock. Okay, when they're said, you go and stamp. Okay? Okay, get your arms in there. Okay, good, because I need to hear that. It will add to the story. And he looked at this rock, and he looked at this rock, and he said, wow, that's unusual. That is a moss-covered rock. And he flipped over and was knocked out. Because you see, it was the magic moss-covered rock. And after 2 hours of being passed out, or knocked out, as the case may be, he woke up, and he looked around and said, what happened? Oh my goodness, what the heck happened? And then he looked at the rock again, and because, sometimes it takes more than once to learn about things. I'm sure you guys have had to try a couple of times. He said, it must have been the moss-covered rock. That's good. He knocked over again for 2 hours. And he woke up, and he goes, I'm not saying that. But again, I told you, Anansi's a trickster, so I need somebody to come up. Anansi, he knew that other animals of the area worked hard to get things. And the rhinoceros had knocked at the pineapple tree all day long with his horn until he shook down pineapples. And so he had a big pile of pineapples. So Anansi went over to him, and you know what he did. He convinced him to go for a walk. So let's go for this walk. And then they went for the walk, and then what happened? He pointed at the rock, and he said, so I wonder what that is. And what did the rhinoceros say?
It's a moss-covered rock.
The rock! Oh my God! As he's passed out, he ran over and got all the pineapples and hid them in his house. When he woke up, he wasn't feeling too good, but when he got back, he was feeling even worse because there was no pineapples left. I need one more person. Through this whole process, the doe had been watching Anansi because she had just been eating some grass. And she thought, this isn't nice. They worked really hard and he's stealing all the food. So she went up to Anansi and said, Anansi, let's go for a walk in the jungle. I think it's really hot. Now Anansi, even though he knew he wasn't going to get anything from the doe, he still wanted to do it to her because he was a trickster, right? So he took the doe and he said, oh, what do you think that is? And she says, oh, it's a rock. Oh, yeah. Well, what's near the rock? Well, there's some grass. Okay, and what's, well, there's more rocks. And no matter how much he tried and how often he tried, she wouldn't say those words. Until finally he got so mad, can't you see there's a moss-covered rock? And he knocked over. And then she ran and got the other animals, come on. And they ran to his house and grabbed all the food and brought it back to their house and had a big party. And when Anansi woke up, that's right, good job. When Anansi woke up, he had nothing but a headache. And that was a trickster tale that fell back on him. Give it a big hand, please.
Doing a jiggly jig. Come on, jiggly jig. There you go. Wow. And the pig who was doing a jiggly jig said, what is going on here? And the old woman said, I'm just out of luck because this pumpkin is stuck. And the holidays are only a few days away. Oh, said the pig, doing a jiggly jig. I have a brilliant idea. And the pig, of course, began to pull and pull and pull. And guess what happened? Nothing. That's right, nothing happened. So the pig, after doing another jiggly jig, can you do a jiggly jig? Just sat beside the chicken and the cow. Now it's going to be your important. Okay. Along came a cow. I still don't know how, but along came a cow. And the cow said to the pig, who was still doing a jiggly jig, what is going on here? And the pig said, you'll never guess. There's a pumpkin stuck on the vine. And she says it is hers, so what can we do? Ah, said the cow, of course. I have an idea. I know how, of course. And the pig said, the cow said, I'm going to pull and pull and pull. And guess what happened? Nothing! That's right. I still don't know why nothing happened, but it did happen. Nothing. Well, along came a horse, of course. And of course, the horse had a brilliant idea. He knew the pumpkin was stuck, and they were just out of luck. But instead of pulling and pulling and pulling, and the pumpkin being stuck and they were just out of luck, the horse said to the cow, who said to the pig, who said to the chicken, who said to the cat, who said to the old woman, he had an idea, and this was what it was. So the old woman stood there holding the vine. The cat held the old woman. The chicken held the cat. The pig held the chicken. The cow, I still don't know how, held the pig. And the horse, of course, held them all. And then, together, they pulled, and they pulled, and they pulled. And guess what? They were in luck. No, they were in luck, because the pumpkin came unstuck, and all in time for holiday dinner. So they had pumpkin pie, pumpkin muffins, they had pumpkin stew, they even had pumpkin soup. Give them a...
The sky is falling down? Yes, and I'm afraid that it's going to fall down on the whole kingdom. Oh, said Ducky Lucky, what are you going to do? Well, said Henny Penny, I am going to tell the king. Well, Ducky Lucky thought that was a great idea, and so he said he would join her, and off they went together. Oh, doesn't that smell delicious? Doesn't it look oh, yes, barks the dog. Yes, it does look delicious. Oh, said the cat, it's absolutely a work of art. And the mouse was looking around. Maybe there was a crumb already that the mouse could have. And it landed right here on her butt. Ow, said the little bug. Why'd you do that? I have a sore butt now. Oh, it's hot. Oh, my goodness. Ow, ow. And the sun said, it will cool off. And then, when it does, I just want you to think about light. Just think about light. So the bug thought, okay, because it did cool off. And the bug thought, light. And noticed, when it thought light, its butt lit up. Wow! My butt lit up. You see this? A long time ago, in a place far away, known as India, there was a bird. Now, this bird was the plainest bird there ever was. You couldn't even notice it around. It just did not stick out. It just blended in. It was so bland. It was brown, like a mushy brown. You couldn't even tell. And it complained. It complained to all the animals around. It said, I don't know why I'm such a complaining bird. I just don't think it's right. But you know what? I'm so plain, and nobody tells me why I'm so plain. It's just not fair. Now that day, the elephant with the big floppy ears wasn't quick enough to hide when the bird was coming around to complain. Because most of the animals generally tried to avoid the complaining bird. Because complaining birds tend to suck all our energy and make us tired. So the elephant